Welcome to Bliss Boss Talks. I'm your host, Jaya Rose, a life coach, speaker, doTERRA team leader, and a mama of two free-spirited girls. And you are in the right place if you are ready to live your dreams without sacrificing your needs. I'm going to be talking to other soulful leaders who are walking the talk, and we are touching on all things personal development, spirituality, and what it really takes to be the boss of your bliss. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey, and welcome to another episode of Bliss Boss Talks. I am really excited to have our guest, Monti Washington, on today. And I will introduce him and let him speak here in a second. But I want to tell you that I first met him actually on Instagram. And we were both speaking at an event called Together. And we had to do spotlight, or what, not spotlight, but these like Instagram takeovers. You know what I'm talking about? Right? And so I saw you. You did it, and you were like, I'm motivation, and you're just bringing everything you bring. I think I remember you went to the gym.
Yep.
You talked about the habits that it takes to create, the place that you're in and to be at the level you're at. And it was super good. You have such a starness about you. I know you know that, but it's always good to hear, right? And
oh yeah, always appreciate it.
Right. And so when you took the stage, I was not shocked at what a star you are, but I really just felt compelled to have you on the show and to share your magic with my audience and vice versa, because I think that we maybe aren't people that would necessarily cross paths, but it's so cool that we have.
Oh, absolutely. That's the beauty of it. Oftentimes people, my energy is definitely different from yours, even at the, it's such a, but I mean, I think that's the beauty of it. Like when I was listening to you speak, it's just like, I like want to light a candle and an incense and just kind of relax, and I'm just like calm. And I love that, because somebody like me, like one word that describes me is passion. I'm just a passionate person, like passion and compassion. And so I thrive off of energy. I'm just an energetic person. Yeah. And I need that, like what you gave and the way you spoke, for somebody as crazy as myself. Like I need that kind of, okay, let's level down. It's good to vibrate at this high frequency and energy and all this good stuff. But sometimes it's getting centered, which is beautiful, because that's what I struggle with. Mm-hmm. So just to see you with your style, I feel like if I was to physicalize it, I'm an actor. So I'm an actor. So in acting, we have this thing called objective in your scene. So if me and you were doing a scene and we're love interests, my objective is to get you back. And my one of my teachers always says, if you cannot physicalize your objective, if you can't act it out, it's not strong enough, because the things we want in life, there's a physical reaction. There's a way we can express that. So if I'm to express the way I saw you speak, it's like, okay, everybody, come here, come close, sit down, hear me out. And you're like drawn in. You're like drawn in. And then me, when I get up, I'm like, everybody, get up, everybody, let's go. And so it's such a beautiful thing. And you're right. It typically, you wouldn't think those styles and those energies and the way people vibrate and the way people operate within the world, you wouldn't think those two styles would necessarily cross paths. But that's the beauty of it for me, because I think that balance and contrast for me is everything.
It's so true. And thank you so much for that reflection. And I'm not really as boring as that sounded that you
There's no. And it's one of those things, like anyone who's listening, you have to be there. It's engaging and pulling you in. Yeah. Like you're literally like, you put a rope on everybody, and bit by bit, you bring them closer, you bring them closer, you bring them closer. And by the end of your talk, everybody feels like they know you and they have a better understanding of themselves. And it's just like, how did I get from way back here in the back of the room to up close?
You know what I'm saying? It was the incense, it was the candle, and the only thing you forgot was the bomb.
Right. So it's just the way you do it. It's so come here. And I'm literally like, no, you stay there. I'm gonna run up. I'm gonna get in your face. I'm gonna get you hyped. So it's such a beautiful contrast.
But you're right. Yours is stand up. And I remember you said something during your talk, something about the fire. And I was like, you bring the fire and I am the fire,
Yes.
and it's true. It's just, and that's what's so magical, because especially at an event like that we met at, I mean, your energy is amazing, but if every single talk was that way, then you wouldn't be as special, right? And the same for me. So it is such a testament to us all really, first of all, owning that energy. And I want to talk about that for a minute for you, because I know that that's probably something you practice and are aware of, especially what you're saying with your acting. But that is such the practice, is to own our energy and create the potency, right? Because it's the potency of that energy, no matter if it's come here or stand up or stay there, it's about how potent that is. I know that you do that so well. So I'm curious, I want to give our audience a little bit of background. You did tell a story at that event, and it was, I will cry because I'm very empathic, but it's also just so powerful. So as much of that as you want to share, that would be great.
Okay.
As little or as much, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just simple. I'll give a couple footnotes. So, when you talk about energy and all that, I think a lot of people's energy. So I'm a geek. I'm like the cool kid in class, disguised as the geek, like the geeky kid in class, disguised as the cool kid in class.
Yeah.
So like I'm all about mythology and superheroes and all that stuff. And I think when I look at the origin of powers and superheroes, right? If you look at any superhero, their origin started when they were young and something negative happened. And for me, I think that's the same thing. I grew up like I'm literally every negative stereotype for an African American, my early childhood was a representation of. I grew up, my mother was a drug addict. I was actually conceived in a hotel room. She was a prostitute and she was addicted to drugs. My dad, I never met him. I'm sure he doesn't know I exist. And I grew up in poverty. Like I literally lived on the streets, literally lived on the streets. I slept behind trash cans. I slept in crack houses on several occasions. I slept in parks for weeks and weeks at a time. Homeless shelters were home. And it was just really rough. Some of the stuff you saw, years later, it's funny as a kid, when you go through certain things like that, you don't realize it's not the normal. Because if that's the only environment you grow up in, you think that's life. Right. Because it is life, I always say we can't have what we can't see. So if you're not exposed to something greater, something better, whether that's a relationship, whether that's your life, whether that's a greater financial status or whatever, you can't have it. It's hard to have something that you don't know exists unless you're gifted enough to know it intuitively and create it. But I wasn't one of those gifted who created it. So growing up in that situation, I thought that was just life. And I remember there was one, I guess, defining moment, one of the defining moments. I don't believe in a defining moment in life. Like, this is what changed me. I believe there's a lot of moments that equate to when you look back on your life and like, oh, wow, there were several moments that created a certain momentum in my life, that created certain opportunities in my life. And I remember the first time I was truly uncomfortable. Now, of course, being young and growing up in the streets and stuff, and it's uncomfortable, but if that's what you've always known, you get used to your own discomfort. We our own box, our own little discomfort. We can get used to our pain. We can get very used to that. So I wasn't aware of that. And I eventually, a lot of homeless shelters, the way they operate is that there's a capacity. And if you don't get there before the capacity fills that night, they won't let you in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're like my mother was with 3 boys. Your capacity's filled. And so we're in Phoenix, Arizona at the time, and it gets pretty cold in the winter. So we didn't get to the homeless shelter, and we're walking. For some reason, we didn't sleep in a park that night, and we get up to this house and we sleep on, my mother goes up to the house. She looks into the window. And so my first thought was, okay, this must be one of my mother's friends, because we used to stay at multiple friends' houses several times. In fact, she would take us to these places. We'd stay there for a couple nights. My mother would disappear, and then they would call Child Protective Services on us, and then we'd go into group homes. So it was kind of the cycle. So I thought that's what was about to happen, but it wasn't. It was actually a stranger's house, and they had a carpet on their concrete. And I don't know how many people do this in other parts, but they put carpets on the concrete so that the oil from the car doesn't stain it. And that's what happened. And so me, my mother, and my two younger brothers, we slept on the cold concrete with that nasty, dusty, oily rug. I just remember the smell of oil and gasoline and dirt and filth. And that whole night, I don't remember sleeping. I just remember being freezing. And I remember, I'm not sure what age I was, maybe 10 or 11. I just remember feeling like this isn't right. Like there's something not right. Like, why aren't we going inside of the house? And so that was one of the defining moments where I realized, okay, I don't want to live like this anymore. So fast forward a little bit, we got taken out of our mother's custody. Me and my brothers, we got put in group homes. We were in 12 group homes over the course of 3 years. And then we got put in foster homes. Now, my first foster mother, she physically abused me and my brother. She used to make us, whenever we weren't being well behaved or whenever she felt like it, we used to have to grip the back of a chair, and she would beat our knuckles with a wire hanger, an extension cord, or a broomstick to teach us we shouldn't touch things that didn't belong to us. Because in her eyes, she assumed if anything came up missing or broken or something was wrong, it had to be the foster kids. And I actually have a couple scars on my knuckles, and my hands used to be very shaky. And then the second foster mother, this was probably another defining moment in my young life. And it holds true now, and we'll get into that later, but my whole concept of you're the shit, it comes from this experience. This woman, she never laid her hands on me and my brothers. We got a little pat on the butt every now and again, but she never did anything. But what she did do was she locked me and my brothers in a room for 23 hours a day. And this went on for a couple of months. So we were locked in this room. Now understand, it was after a couple of weeks of getting there. We're out of the hood. We're out of living with rats and roaches and literally eating out of trash cans and huddling around barrels of fire like they do in the movies. Like we used to do that to stay warm. Like that was a real thing for us. We went from that to living in this beautiful house in the suburbs where there was lights on and they had electricity and there was food in the refrigerator. And, it was like this beautiful fairy tale almost. It was like, wow, this is how normal people live. And my little brother broke a bowl and that lady went off. She just cussed us out. She put us in a room. And so we thought, okay, we're grounded for the next day. Needless to say, the next couple of months, we spend at least 23 hours a day on there. Sometimes we get out a little bit on the weekends. And she would just tell us this false narrative. You're not shit. You're not shit. You're so dumb. You're so stupid. So imagine being, I think, 11, 12 years old at the time, being told you're dumb, you're stupid, you're stupid. It got to the point to where I was called stupid so many times that it actually, I thought it was my name. Like I got called stupid so many times that when stupid was said, I would respond as though somebody said Monty. And to make matters worse, not only did that experience put me in special ed classes until about 8th grade, but I developed suicidal tendencies because she kept saying, you're not shit, you're not shit. So I felt like my first mother abandoned me. My first foster mother physically abused me. And now this one is telling me this stuff. And I tried to commit suicide on 2 separate occasions. I won't go into the details, but luckily I got help and I got therapy and we were taken out of that situation. And anybody who's listening to this, anybody who struggles with any suicidal thoughts, or somebody, I encourage you to have, or if you're the one struggling with it, I encourage you to have, or if you know somebody who's struggling with it, I encourage you to have a courageous conversation. Either have a courageous conversation with that person to let them know they need help, or have a courageous conversation with a professional or somebody you trust to get you help. Because it takes courage to talk about those things to get to the point where you want to take your life. And I'm living proof that there's nothing that has happened to you. And I mean, nothing that has happened to you that can justify you depriving the world of whatever gift, whatever thoughts, whatever life, whatever light you have to give. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that can provide it. So luckily I got counseling and therapy and I found out like, okay, I do have something to offer. So if anybody's listening, like you do, I promise you, I don't care. I do not care. You get help, you get perspective, you get some time, and you will look back and you will thank to God or the gods or whatever you believe in that you didn't do that. I know I do. And so long story short, after that whole experience and getting help, I ended up going to my last foster parents and things were a little better. We definitely got treated a little different from the regular kids, but we're in a nice house. We weren't being abused like that. And we had a sense of normalcy. And that was probably the third defining moment in my young life where I realized, okay, this is what normal looks like. This is some semblance of a family. This is what this is supposed to feel like. I want this. I don't want that. And like I said, you can't have what you can't see. So if you're in a horrible environment or you come from a horrible environment, you need to figure out a way to see something greater. You need to figure out to see something more. You need to figure out a way to see, this is what I want. Because it's easy for us to all say what we don't want. It's pretty easy. We know what we don't like. We know what we don't want. But a lot of people have a hard time discovering and finding out and figuring out, what do I want? And if you don't know that, it's on you to seek that out so you have some sort of visual representation, so you have something to strive for. What happens to us in those younger years or at any point in our life that is the result of somebody else's behavior or somebody else's actions, it's not our fault. And it's not our responsibility, but it is our responsibility to do something about it, to fix ourselves. It is not their responsibility. If you forgive them, you forgive them. If they ask for forgiveness, they ask for forgiveness. If they correct their wrongs, then they correct it. But if none of that is given, it is on you. It is your responsibility to fix that. And so I realized, you know what? It's on me. It was about 8th grade when I moved in with my last foster parents. I was just about to go into high school. So I was like, essentially, I got 4.5 years with these people. I'm going to make the most out of it. And I went from being in special ed classes until 8th grade to graduating. One of the top people in my class, went to college, got not 1, but 2 college degrees, graduated magna cum laude. I'm a published author now, all-state basketball champ, spoken word champ, a bunch of other accolades. And I say all of that to get to one of my central points when I speak. And it's that if you looked at me now, if you met me now, the way I talk, the way I act, the way I dress, the way I carry myself, you would never know by looking at me that I've gone through any of those things. And the reason why is because this is a simple truth I found in life. We don't look like our stories. We do not look like our stories. You cannot look at somebody and get their story, that smile, the way they dress, you don't know. And once we realize that, we realize we don't look like our story because we're greater than our stories. We're constantly in creation of a new story if you're not being a victim to your past. And this is something I always teach people, like, we don't look like our story. If I look like my story, I wouldn't be a renowned speaker. I wouldn't be college educated. I'd be incarcerated. I'd probably have 8 or 9 baby mamas. I wouldn't have any of the things I have if I look like my story. If my early story predicted the trajectory of my life. And that's not the case. And that's something everybody who's listening, you have to know. You do not look like your story. Your past abuse doesn't determine your potential for the future. In fact, it prepares you to exceed your potential.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I just want to acknowledge you I know that you share that. I know it's quite obvious that you've healed in so many ways and that you're a master storyteller and that you have shared that. And simultaneously, I acknowledge you for that work, for the work you've done to be able to share that story and use it as a teaching point. Because just like you're saying, when we don't look like our stories, which one makes us so much more valuable than our story.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And 2, makes our story valuable to actually share. So it's like this multifaceted thing. So thank you. And I know before we got on, we were talking about up-leveling and that you were not feeling good the last few days. And I was talking about upper limits. And so I want to dive into how the gap, right? The gap. And so I hear you say this life that you had totally did not set you up for all the achievements that you have achieved. It has not set you up to be who you are. You have set you up, right? And I think that the best stories and some of the best leaders there are people who have a story who backs up their triumph, right? It's the hero's journey. And at the same time, there's always this bit of a gap. Like, okay, awesome, Monty. Like, you're incredible. And how do you do it? This is one of the things that you talked about on those stories that I watched are your habits. And then that's another thing you just mentioned. And this is something that I teach as well, is like the practices that it takes to expand. Because
oh my goodness.
Right? This is not just, it's not one and done. There's no, hey, this was a pinnacle of my story and then it changed forever. It's like, no, that changed the trajectory forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But the choices you make on a daily basis change your life.
Oh my goodness. Of course. It's literally so. Um, when I started getting past all that negativity and all that hardships, I just started to surround myself around the things that I wanted. You know, that whole gap. Um, I got help. I stayed with counseling and therapy. I joined things that would help me boost my confidence and self-esteem. So I'm a big hip hop fan. My man Jay-Z, he has a quote that I love to use. He says, "Everyone has a genius level talent within them." Everyone. Everyone has something, and genius just means born with. That's all genius means. It just means you're born with this, and everybody has that. And if you're brave enough, woke enough, conscious enough to seek what that is a great source of confidence. So I realized I was a gifted athlete. I was gifted with words. Like my genius level talent is it's words. I'm amazing with words, whether it's speaking or storytelling or acting or writing or poetry. That's just my genius level talent. And I started to tap into that or lean into that because it gave me confidence, being able to dunk at a young age, being on varsity as a freshman, writing and winning poetry stuff. It gave me confidence, and that confidence I built on stuff from there. And that was a day-to-day basis. I was like, I'm good at this. Let me put all my time and effort and positive energy into this. So that kept on going. So in my younger years, that's what happened. And then I went into like a deep depression after college, just trying to figure out, okay, now I've got this degree and I'm an adult. What do I want to do? And I'm out here in LA and I'm grinding and I'm struggling. And I'm like, well, you're college educated and you're sleeping on couches and you're broke and all this stuff. And personal development. So when you talk about that gap, those habits, what I started to make a habit of, in which, and if I'm being completely honest, one of the reasons these last couple of weeks I haven't been feeling or vibrating at the frequency I want to and being at the level I want to is because we have a habit, I believe, when you create these little habits I'm about to tell you about, they get you to a certain level. And I know I've made the mistake of, I've got to that level. So I stopped doing those things that got me there because, hey, it got me there. It was like, it was a means to an end. Yeah. No, it's a lifestyle. It was a lifestyle. So a few practical things I started doing. There's this thing, and maybe you heard of it, right? It's called YouTube, right? So there's this platform, I call it YouTube University. You can find anything in the world on YouTube. And I started finding these motivational, inspirational videos from Anthony Robbins, from Les Brown, to Jim Rohn, to Zig Ziglar, all these old school pioneers of personal development. And I started digesting and ingesting all these words. I started picking up books and how to create better habits and the 4 agreements and the alchemist. And I started reading these things. And then I started to pray and meditate on a regular. When I was sleeping on a couch in the Valley, when I first moved to LA and I was going through this hard time before speaking really took off, when I barely had a job, when I was borrowing money, I used to get up every morning. And I used to walk a little less than a mile to this really nice neighborhood. And I would walk around and I would look at the houses and I would pray out loud. And I have a hard time sitting and meditating. So I need to walk. So I have this mantra that I built up over the years. So I always start off with the 5 things I'm grateful for. So the 5 things I have in life, and then the 5 things I'm thankful for. So I always thank God and the universe ahead of time. Like, I'm thanking you in advance for this. I'm thanking you in advance for this financial blessing that's coming in there. I thank you in advance for this audition. I thank you in advance for this speaking gig. And so I would do that. Then I have this mantra that I use. I say, Lord, I surrender my fear of failure, my fear of success, my doubt in my ability, my worry about money, my insecurities of my past, and my anxiety of the future to you, because I know and understand wholeheartedly that my potential is limitless, and I will utilize that limitless potential to capitalize upon the enormous and abundant opportunities that today brings, and I will have supreme confidence and absolute faith while in pursuit of those enormous and abundant opportunities. That's like my mantra.
Okay, so that is one hell of a mantra. Can we just take a minute to say, did you write that, first of all?
Yes, of
Okay, you
course.
wrote that. So can we get a copy of that so I can put it in the show notes for everybody?
I created. I will write it down for you. Absolutely. It's just something over the years I started just adding and adding,
Yeah.
and then now that's like that's my thing. So I'll be happy to write it down for you.
Okay, I love it. So this is such a cool thing. So, I work with a lot of women, and I work with a lot
Hmm.
of sensitive, soulful women who find a lot of value in words as well, and affirmation,
Hmm.
like you're
Oh
saying.
goodness.
So I love the idea of just having an affirmation, which I think most of the ones I see stop at a sentence, right? Because how you going to
Oh.
remember? How you going to remember unless you're a an actor like you who obviously memorizes, and a spoken word champion who is very good at
Oh yeah.
memorizing words, right? But I love the idea of just continually adding. You're like, I'm not done with that,
Oh, you
right?
just want to hit up everything. So there's
Yeah.
this. So I'm
Yeah,
sure I will end up jumping all over the place, but so there's this thing. So I don't know if you've ever struggled with this, but you got to be careful what you ask of God in the universe. You got to
yes.
make sure you got to make sure they're not conflicting, and you
Yeah,
got to, if you believe that what you're asking for you can have, you have to be very conscious of what you're asking for.
totally.
So for instance, now I've been very successful with speaking, and I'm expanding, and I always pray, I can't wait to get a speaking gig, can't wait to get a speaking gig. But then I found out my success in speaking has been kind of pulling away from acting, because acting is so sporadic. You get auditions the day before and you need to be available. It's so all over the place, as opposed to speaking. I know my 10 speaking gigs in February 2019 already. Like, I know my contracts, I know when it's going to happen. And I would constantly pray for a new speaking gig. Now, before I would just say I want a speaking gig, I say, Lord, I thank you in advance for the speaking gig I'm going to get today. That's going to allow me to walk away with at least $5,000 after taxes and after my agency payouts. And that is not going to interfere with any major acting opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm getting specific about it. So I'm like, I want this, but I got to make sure it doesn't take me away from the other thing that I want, because I'm just as passionate and loving, and acting. That's my first love. Like, I'm a performer. And it's a harder industry to break into. So it's an ongoing thing. And my speaking, I feel like my speaking and my personal development and my personal development coaching that I do with people, that's what I give. Like, that's what I give to people and to the universe. That's what I give of myself to other people. Acting is one of those, it's very much for me. It's very much my own therapy, my own challenge, and everything. And so when you're coming up with these affirmations, you have to be specific. You have to be intentional. I got this acronym I use, MIM, make intentional moves. You have to make intentional moves. So everything you say, you need to have an intention behind it. You say something vague, it's going to get you vague results. So that whole affirmation, that's something I built upon. I'm like, oh man, what are the things I struggle with? What are the things that I fear? And I found that a lot of people fear with the anxiety of the future, what may happen. People get stuck in the past, what has happened. People worry about finances, so I have finances in there. I talk about potential, not just potential, but the limitless potential, not just the opportunity, but the abundance of opportunities. And it's not just about having confidence, because that's my main thing. I think if anything that separates me from any speakers or anybody out there is I'm the confidence guy. I'm the guy you come to when you want to get your confidence up. You got to have supreme confidence. There's confidence, which is conditional.
I love the way you talked about that in your talk, and you said if you could put a level 10 dream, you need level 10 confidence. And it's so simple. Like, that is such a simple concept, but how many people do you know? And I can think of a lot that I know that have a level 10 dream, even a level 8 dream, right? But the confidence, which really, to me, and I'm curious how you define it, since you're saying you're the guy for it, right? I define it as belief and trust in yourself, self-love. I mean, there's so many layers to what makes you confident. Passion, purpose. I
mean, there's levels. So there's so many different things. Like, I'm actually working on my next book. I'm messing around with some titles, but it's You're the Shit and Here's Why. So it's literally talking about the different levels of confidence. And one of the base level of confidence is the ability to take action, or the belief to take action. I think that's, if I'm to sum it up, there's a lot to it. There's a lot. And when I'm ready to release my book, we'll have another podcast and we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
But
that sounds good.
It's that ability to take action on what it is. That's all that confidence is. It's like, I want to be a public speaker, but I'm scared as hell to get up there because I'm going to be judged. And what if I stumble? Confidence is, I'm going to do it. I'm scared to start my podcast. Confidence is going to do it. Belief is another level, right? Mm-hmm. So when I came to LA a lot, or especially now I have a lot of younger people that mentor, and they come up to me, ask me questions. Confidence is, I come from Kansas City. I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to win an Oscar in a year. That is such a ridiculous notion. Mm-hmm. They have no idea. It took Leonardo DiCaprio 17 years of doing excellent work to get a damn Oscar. Meryl Streep, who's probably the all-time greatest actress alive, along with Viola Davis and maybe a couple other people, she's only won 3 in almost a 30-year career. So when you hear stuff like that, that's just action, but they took the action. They have the first level of confidence, which is just taking a step forward to come here in the first place, not knowing anything else. Now, the belief that comes a little bit down the road, you know what I'm saying? Because now it's like, oh, I did the first step. I got up here. I'm going to speak in front of this crowd of people. Oh, now the belief. Now, do I believe that what I have to say is important enough to grab their attention? So there's levels to it. There's levels to the whole confidence and stuff. So yeah, it's for me, it's starting with that action, but definitely belief. You know, when I talk about people, you know, if you want a level 10 dream is the highest level. That means you want the healthiest life, the wealthiest life, the longest life, the most fulfilled life. Well, you can't achieve a level 10 dream if your confidence is at a level 5, and the reason why is because we can't outperform the belief we have in ourselves. It's that simple. You can't outperform. You see world-class athletes. There's a reason the top athletes in the world are sometimes come off cocky or arrogant. You have to have a confidence level to believe you're the best. There's a lot of athletes who may have more talent than some of the top people, but their confidence isn't there. So it doesn't matter how talented you are, how gifted you are, how pretty you are, how privileged you are, whatever it is, if you don't have belief in those talents, those skills, those gifts, and then those abilities, you can't achieve that level 10 dream, because we talked about it a little bit before we started the podcast. You'll self-sabotage.
Yeah. Totally.
If you don't, no matter what, you'll self-sabotage. And if I can kind of segue to something real quick, one of my favorite quotes is, we date at our self-esteem level, right? So I'm in LA, and I also travel and I speak at colleges, and I see beautiful young ladies. I mean, just naturally beautiful, just like, wow, right? And their confidence is just nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. And then and I know a couple just beautiful women. I mean, inside and out, embody the word beautiful in horrible relationships. Why? Because their self-esteem is shot, and you date at your self-esteem level. So even if you get what you think you want, if you don't have confidence that you earned it, if you don't have belief that you deserve it, you will self-sabotage. You will always find a way to get what you think you deserve, what you believe you deserve. You will always find a way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And I love how these truths, I mean, it's a universal truth, right? It's the law of vibration, which means we will vibrate at a certain level, and that level will be matched by everything that comes into our view. So it's like, and that's it. It's just put differently. And I love how you've arrived at this, obviously, through a lot of learning yourself and also your life. Like, you've practiced these things. You were the guy who was going to step up on stage and did it, and then did move to LA and has these big goals. I wonder about, okay, so I know you have you're the shit, and I love it. It's so good. And you talked about that athlete who needs to be a little bit cocky, right? Because they need to have that confidence to believe they're the best. And so I know that for women in particular, and women who are empathic, meaning they can sense other people's feelings without them speaking them, they tend to shy away from that inner feeling of I'm the best. I find that that's challenging for them. So I'm curious if you would speak to that for a minute, just like how how do you help somebody realize that that is not actually taking away from anybody else for you to be the
Oh my,
best, right?
oh my goodness. So I know this is about women, but you hit this on the note. So I struggled with this up until 2 years ago myself.
Yeah.
Literally. I would go into acting classes, and I believe true confidence. So for you, when I met you, and your light, your presence is just, it makes you want to just freaking be around you. It's just warm. It's comforting. You just have an energy about you that's just like, yo, can we just let's just talk. Let's just
Let's cuddle.
like seriously, like that's what it is, right? And what I've noticed, my truth is, people like yourself, people like me who vibrate at a higher frequency and have a more fluorescent light, if you would, are the people that's been through some shit.
Yeah.
That's it. I haven't met anyone who has that same glow who hasn't been through some dark times. I just haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying people who haven't experienced none of that, they're not great people. I've met some who are just like, wow, you really haven't gone through anything traumatic in your life up to this point, and you're a great person. But there's a little something extra. When you've been to the dark, you appreciate the light much more. And I say that because when I was in acting class, I'd be like, oh man, I just walk with this confidence, and I acknowledge I'm a nice looking guy. I got a bit of swag, and I'm pretty sure
Yes,
about
you
myself.
do.
Like I'm pretty sure about myself, right?
Yeah.
And that intimidates people, especially if you're in actors. We're very insecure people. The industry makes you very insecure because you're being judged all the time.
Everything. Am I good enough? Am I good enough?
Oh my God. Like it's being judged all the time. So I say that to say, I went into the class and I struggled with my confidence because I saw the way people, when I first got to a new class, they loved it. And then once they saw my confidence and the work I put in, you just get this little snickiness and people kind of shun me. And so I started to dim my light and I'm just going to chill back and not be me. And that was the dumbest thing. It made me question myself so much. And you're right. I know there's women out there that do that. And you're doing yourself a disservice, right? So insecure people, and this is why I warn people having insecure people in your circle, be very, very careful with that, because they will project their own insecurities onto you. So if you come in and you're the shit, you have it going on, not because of the other women in the room, but because of you. Right. It's just because of you. You cannot dim that. You have to do it in such a way that it warms the right people. The right people are going to they're going to sense that. They're going to sniff it out. They're going to want to be around you. The people who are insecure, the people who are unhappy, people who are miserable, it doesn't matter. They're going to try to find a flaw in you regardless of how you carry yourself. So why not carry yourself with the confidence and the greatness that you have in you in the first place? Like, there's a difference. When I learned how to do this properly, right? So there's a way to carry yourself to encourage other people to carry themselves in the same way. And then there's a way to carry yourself that discourages. And what I mean by that, so there's a difference. When people used to call me cocky, I realized part of it was true, a part of it was just them, but a part of it was true. You can't carry yourself like, I know I'm the best thing in this room. I know I look the best. I know I have on. It's not that. It's, I'm the shit because I've accepted that I don't have everything right. I'm the shit because I've accepted that I'm not the best at anything but at being myself. And that gives me confidence. Like, you're the shit, and your confidence comes, true confidence. This is just my opinion. True confidence comes from not from what we achieve, but from what we've overcome. My confidence in myself is not because of what I've achieved. I've achieved some great things, but if you ask me, I haven't achieved jack.
Right.
I'm nowhere near where I ultimately want to be, but I know where I used to be. I know those dark times. I know that doubt. I know the suicidal tendencies. I know when I had no belief in myself. I remember what that looked like. I remember what that felt like. And now that I'm not there anymore, I'm happy where I'm at. So I'm like, I'm the shit. I am so confident. I'm in love with myself. And I'm by being around me, you're going to learn through osmosis that you can be like that too.
Right.
And so any woman that comes like that, like, let's just be real now. Forgive me. I don't want to overgeneralize. This is from my personal experience, but I find women, y'all judge each other so much more than men judge each other.
Yeah, I think
like dudes, like if I see something like, it's rare that I see a dude, I'm like, If I'm in the gym, I see a dude's bigger, I'm inspired. Dudes, and of course, there's a lot of social constructs and stuff that kind of make it that way. Now, dudes, unfortunately, we're always judging women, always looking, we're always doing this dumb stuff, and I'm hoping, some of that can change. But women amongst women, like, when I see a group of women come together and empower each other and lift each other up, like we experience at the Together conference, that's sexy. That is dope. Because it's like, y'all all can relate to certain strengths, certain struggles, and y'all lifting each other up. It's not about competing with each other.
No.
Like it's compliment each other. So sorry, that's a bit of a roundabout. Like I said, I'm in the process of writing a book about all of this. So I'm like, but
so good.
But in essence, if I'm to take the core of that, it's the core of you dimming your light. It is a fear of judgment. We are going to be judged regardless of what we do. You will be judged if you do nothing. You will be judged if you do something. You'll be judged if you do everything. You're going to be judged. Carry yourself in a way that makes you feel good, and the right people will see that, and it will attract the right people. The wrong people, it doesn't matter. They're either going to feed off your insecurities, or they're going to try to project their own insecurities upon you. So just kind of walk with that light. There's no need to dim, because you're not dimming it because you want to dim it. Like, think about your best day. I'm talking about the day where you felt good. Your hair is looking good. Your makeup's good. You're feeling great in your own skin and your body. You just, you just love with yourself. Think about that moment and that feeling. Do we ever really want to experience anything less than that?
Right. And is that ever compromising anybody else? And I think that's the point, right? I love that you said that you're the shit because of what you've been through and what you've overcome. And that's not about, you're not saying I'm the shit more than you're the shit.
No. And that's the thing. It's not about anybody else. Right. It's not. Right. It's about how you feel about yourself.
And to think it is about other people is just taking away from you, right?
My God.
I love that you're saying to love yourself, because I think that is the core of it. I mean, I agree that I'm confident and that you see me, and I don't think I come across as I have insecurities that are on the surface, right? And so, but that's because I love myself. It's not because I think I'm better than anybody else. And in fact, what I do say is, I just think I'm better than you think you are. That's it. Right. That's it. So then that's a lot of choice for you, right? You get a lot of opportunity right there.
It's this. So I break it down to this. I got an acronym I use all the time, and it's called FLY, F-L-Y. First, love yourself. You got to fly. The concept of fly, it's just you have to first love yourself. And when you begin to love yourself, like, you won't allow yourself to feel anything less than that. Like, I won't allow myself to go into a room, to go into an audition, to go up on stage without feeling the best. I don't care how many times I have to say my affirmation I said earlier. I don't care how many times I have to say I'm the shit. I don't care. I'm going to raise my frequency. I'm going to raise my confidence up to a level 10, because I want a level 10 audition. I want a level 10 performance. I want to write a level 10 book. So when I'm in the process of doing any of those things or walking into a room, I'm going to have that. And it's going to resonate, differently. And it's truly being comfortable with yourself. Like it's expelling that fear away from it. Cause I think at the core of it, a lot of times it just feels like the best version of me is still not enough.
Yeah. Like, what if I put that out and that got rejected? Because I know this has been that was my story of playing small. I always knew that I had it in me, but if I didn't share it, then I didn't have to risk it being not enough. Yeah, and that's choose for it to not be enough.
Yeah, and I get so mad when I think about how I used to do that, and I get so mad when I see other people doing that. I'm like, who is judging us? There's not a single person alive who doesn't walk around with some certain insecurities. Yeah. There's not a single person who hasn't gone through some type of shit on one level or another. Yeah. Like, you're not being judged. Like, don't worry about it. Like, people are going to judge.
You are. Like what you said, right? Where you are.
When I mean, you're exactly. You're going to be judged regardless. No need to judge yourself. Yeah. Like, it's so intoxicating to come around confident people.
Yeah.
Not and I've come in contact with people who are multimillionaires, who look good, who got it going on, who got the greatest car, and I can sniff out their false confidence in a heartbeat because it's conditional. It's not the supreme confidence, it's the conditional confidence. Oh, I got this much money. And there's a lot of dudes I come in contact with. I'm like, yeah, you think you're the shit because you have all this money,
yeah,
which attracts a certain type of woman, who may, by societal standards and a physical level, be very attractive. And now you have this car and now you think you're the shit. But I know you don't feel that way. Why? Because you still treat other people like they're beneath you. You walk around, you don't walk around like, hey, I am proud of my hard work and what I've achieved and what I've overcome. You walk around like, hey, I need you to look at what I've achieved. I need you to look at what I have. It's not like that. Like, there's nothing, there's nothing more than just dope to me than just seeing somebody who doesn't care two issues about anyone, and it's just in their own world, doing them, just happy. And if you interrupt them in their thing, they're just loving it. Hey, what's up? Okay, good. Okay, I'm back to just me. Like my man, and I don't like to quote him lately because he's getting on my nerves. My man Kanye, old Kanye, not new lost his damn mind Kanye.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about 6, 7, 8 years ago. He has this line in one of his songs. He said, "I can be by myself and enjoy the company."
Yeah. So
I love that. Like,
and that's probably still true for him. Let's just be real.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother story.
It's a whole nother level.
I'm working on a spoken word piece. Anyways, anyways, and it's this love you find for yourself. Like right now, I probably spend too much time by myself. But I've learned I used to need people around me to feel secure, to feel good. I spend so much time by myself. I'm doing the long distance thing. My significant other lives in a whole nother country. And I just spend so much time, and like, it's intoxicating. I love it. I love taking myself out on dates. I love going to the movies by myself, going to a nice restaurant by myself. I spend an abnormal amount of time in coffee shops working on my business by myself. And, I'm balancing out with more time with networking and being part of a community, and even like what we're doing right now, I've realized the importance of that, and I need to do that. But just when I'm alone, like, so many people are afraid to be alone with their thoughts. So many people are afraid to be alone and just deal with what you're feeling. Like, get it out in the open. Stop trying to suppress it. Stop trying to act like it's not there. Get out, deal with it. If you spend enough time in silence, if you spend enough time in reflection, you'll get to the core of why you feel the way you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So true. It's so good. I feel like we need to just put a big to be continued on this, because we could actually talk for hours. I'm
with it.
So excited about your book and just your trajectory. And I know you were saying when we were getting on that you're going through your own stuff and you're through your own up level. So I want to take a moment and acknowledge you and say, just holy shit, you are the shit.
Thank you.
You are the shit. I mean, you have such a divine purpose that is written all over you, and it's needed, because these are important conversations, and your voice is so specific to you that you get to like go to these colleges and you get to stand there as an authority to these young Black men. Like, thank you for that. And yet you can come here and talk to my hippie self, and down with my audience. And it's so good. And this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do to bridge those gaps and
100%.
Show that we are all on the same team. Like, let's be on the same team.
I love it. That's my goal at the Together conference. That's one of the things that just taught me. It's just like, you genuinely are in this together. At the core of cores, we are humans. We love, we laugh, we cry, we have insecurities, we have ups, we have downs, we have all these different things at the core of us. Forget about the gender, the socioeconomic status, the ethnicity, the race, all that other nonsense. When you dispel all those man-made constructs, you get down to the humans and the energies and the frequencies. We're so much more alike than we are different. It's insane.
It's so true and so good. Oh, I want to just drink it up like a cup of tea. Let's just have some tea and light some incense.
Hey, I love it.
Monty, let's tell the folks where is the best place to connect with you. I know you're a little more into that, right?
Yes. So the best place I'm most active is Instagram at Montivation. That is Montivation. You get it, Monty Motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Montivation. Also, definitely follow my YouTube channel. I've recently invested in a lot of different camera equipment. I'm gonna start blogging a lot more. I'm gonna start posting a lot more and putting out a lot more content because I found that a lot of people see value in it. So if you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Montivation as well, and on Facebook at Montivation or just Monti Washington. That's good. And hey, hit me up in the inbox, contact me.
Okay.
I'm not until I'm the next Will Smith, it's easy to contact me. Then you might have to go through my assistant down the road.
Yeah, exactly. So good. Well, everybody too listening, make sure to tag us on, both of us follow Monty and then tag us on Instagram. We'll throw you in our stories as well. That's always so fun. Let us know that you listened and that you got something out of this, and exactly what did you get out of it? We want to know. So thank you so much. This is definitely not a goodbye. It's a to be continued.
Oh, yes. And I'll be around. Let me know. Let me know.
For sure. And thanks everybody for being here on another episode of Bliss Boss Talks. Yay. Thanks so much for listening and being here. And if you loved this episode, please take a moment to rate it on iTunes. I feel so honored when I read your reviews, and I would love to feature you on the podcast as a spotlight review. Also, find me on Instagram at Jaya Rose, and I would be so excited to share your story into my story. I just love seeing the feedback and that you're listening. So share it out on social media. Share it with somebody who you think it could benefit, because us showing up for other people is what this is all about. It's a ripple effect of change, and we do that by sharing. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time on Bliss Boss Talks.